as a dietitian, people are like, what's the number one supplement you recommend? Hands down, it's magnesium.
Is it true that over 90% of people are deficient in magnesium?
70% of our immune system lives in the gut.
Are there other foods that you recommend avoiding if someone is experiencing gut issues?
The list is long. Yeah.
Let's talk about parasites.
Truth of the matter is we all have parasites living in us. We have over 100 trillion microbes that are inside of our gut. So let's say you just like went on a vacation, you come home and you're like, oh my goodness, my gut hates me. Like I feel terrible. I need a little reset. Do not go and do like a juice cleanse or a detox. Please do not reach for those because that's just going to put you in a worse place.
Before we begin today's episode, I just want to say thank you for being here. Your presence is truly appreciated, and every single subscriber we are so grateful for at the Heal Within podcast. If you are not yet subscribed, please subscribe. It makes us able to continue with the show and put out this valuable information so that people can have a holistic, natural healing journey. And that's why we're here. That's the purpose. Thank you so much. We're grateful for each and every one of you. Enjoy today's episode. Jillian, there's so much information and content on gut health floating around. I would love for this conversation to cause some light bulbs to go off for some people. I know that the listener clicked on this because they're experiencing gut health issues, and I would love to help them pinpoint or figure out how to resolve these issues so that they're not going down this frustrating long path of finding the right answer. So where would you start for the person who just clicked on this and is frustrated and needs help? Where would you point them?
Yeah. So, as with anything within our health, our gut really, the approaches that we're taking to healing our gut, it really needs to be from a personalized place. Because, I've been a dietitian working with women struggling with gut issues and men for almost 6 years now. And what the most important thing that I've really learned is that everybody is so different. And a lot of gut health symptoms can look very similar. Some really common ones might be bloating, stomach aches, constipation, diarrhea, heartburn, maybe feeling really crummy after you eat. And a lot of these symptoms can have varying root causes. And so that's why sometimes people can struggle with gut issues for so long and get very frustrated because they're like, I'm doing all these things that I'm reading about on Google or that somebody told me to do on Instagram or TikTok, and yet I'm not feeling any better. The reason why is because we have to go about healing our digestive health from a very personalized way. And so that's, I'm the lead dietitian at GutPerson, and that's the entire backbone of our company is let's figure out what's causing your issues and address it from there. So one of the first places I always tell my clients to start is, okay, well, number one, go to our website and take our quiz, because that's going to tell you exactly what's going on in your gut and the steps you need to take in order to start rebalancing it. So that's an easy, free way. Or to work with somebody to actually start getting to those root cause imbalances. And, I know that it can be so frustrating to be like, I just want that quick fix. Like, tell me the one thing I need to do. But the truth of the matter is that there's a lot of things that are going on causing those digestive issues. Working with somebody to kind of get to those root causes is truly what I found to be the number one biggest needle mover that you can do to finally get relief and true healing.
Is there a one answer for each different symptom you listed? So if someone has constipation versus acid reflux or anything across the board, is there a one solution like, okay, you have constipation, then try this first?
There's absolutely things to try, but I'm sure, as you know too, being in the health space, there's never one thing that's going to be the magic cure for everything, right? I wish it were the case. It would make things a lot easier, but unfortunately, we are humans and the human body doesn't work that way. However, there are absolutely strategies to try depending on the symptoms that you have. So, for example, you brought up constipation. One of my first approaches for constipation is making sure you're taking the right kind of magnesium supplement. Magnesium is essential for bowel regularity, but the form really matters. There's a lot of different forms of magnesium out there. So don't just go to your nearest Target or drugstore and grab one off the shelf, because it can definitely make you feel worse if you're taking the wrong kind. I always tell my clients to look for a magnesium glycinate. That's what we use inside of our Miracle Worker. And that's the kind that's going to be best for constipation. It's also really good for hormone health, sleep, and anxiety. So any of those symptoms, I'm like, get on the Miracle Worker, get on some good magnesium. That will really help with regularity. For things like bloating, there's absolutely a lot of root causes. causes. The most common ones I see are too much bad bacteria, poor digestion, and then from a nutrition perspective, snacking too much, which snacking throughout the day, massive root cause to bloating. And I think that's something a lot of people don't realize. I work with a lot of women, and I find that women, especially, we can be like little birds. We like to just kind of snack and graze throughout the day, a little hand food here, a little bite of something here. And this kind of constant grazing, really, really common cause to bloating. So what I tell my clients is try to consolidate those snacks into actual meals that are spaced out about 3.5 to 4 hours. So there's, little strategies that you can do dependent on the symptoms, but that's where, the power of, working with somebody who can kind of help you navigate what sort of things you need to incorporate into your routine to really get those lasting results that you're after.
On the magnesium, I did start taking yours about a week ago. Before that, I was taking a different magnesium, and it was only one of the types. I know you said that there's many. I
Yes.
wanted to talk about the main ones that there are because I noticed the one that I used to take, it was just one. And then the one that is in, I believe, the Miracle Worker, that one is, there's like a few different magnesiums in there.
So the Miracle Worker is the single one. We actually used to
Uh,
carry a blend, and we recently switched it over to simply magnesium glycinate because that's the one that your body's most able to absorb. So yeah, let's talk about the different forms a little bit, 'cause that's definitely a question I get a lot as a gut health dietitian is there's a lot of different types of magnesium. I hear magnesium is so important. What kind should I take? Magnesium is so important. As a dietitian, people are like, what's the number one supplement you recommend? Hands down, it's magnesium. I think everybody can benefit from magnesium. It's very difficult to get through food, and your body needs a ton of it throughout the day. So, supplementing, really, really good idea. But the form really matters. So you might notice that there's different forms. There's magnesium glycinate, there's magnesium citrate, malate, oxide, threonate. Like there's a lot of different forms. Not all of them are created equal. So not all of them are well absorbed in the body, which is why certain, cheaper forms of magnesium, they can cause things like diarrhea, cramping, stomach aches because they pass through your digestive tract, not getting absorbed. It pulls in a bunch of water, makes your stomach hurt. So you want a form that's very well absorbed. That's the magnesium glycinate. That's why we use that in the Miracle Worker. So this is the most absorbable form of magnesium that's out there, which is why we use it. And that means that you're going to not only get more bang for your buck, so to speak, because you're actually going to be absorbing that magnesium. So not only is it going to help your gut health, but you're going to get a lot more widespread benefits. So it's really helpful for hormone balance, really good for the nervous system. So those who struggle with anxiety, racing thoughts, poor mood, really important for you, really important for our sleep. So it helps you get a better night of sleep. So, the benefits are really far reaching. I also use it a lot for like menstrual cramps, headaches, for my athletes, people who work out a lot. It's important for muscle recovery. So it's a really, really good one for a lot of different things, but you got to make sure you're getting the kind that your body can actually absorb. And then it won't cause any GI issues. So that is why we use that glycinate. That's really the most important form when it comes to magnesium.
Is it best to take that at night because of how it helps with sleep?
I like taking it at night, but you don't have to. So, what's great about the magnesium is it doesn't make you sleepy. So, it's not like a melatonin that's going to like knock you out. It calms the nervous system. So, it calms down those like racing thoughts. So, I do like taking it at night because it just kind of helps you wind down. We have it in a powdered form and it tastes so delicious. Do you have the powder or did you do the capsules?
Capsules.
Okay, you got to try the powder next time. It is delicious. So it's like a nice little like treat after dinner of like a little mocktail to help you wind down. However, I also have some of my clients take it in the daytime if they do struggle with anxiety or stress. And if you wake up and you're one of those people who just feel kind of like that morning anxiousness, I absolutely recommend adding it in the morning. I sometimes do both. So I always take it at night because it helps me sleep better. But if there's like a day where I have a really jam-packed calendar, maybe I'm traveling and I'm just feeling a little bit more like keyed up, I'll do a little extra scoop in my electrolyte water. And it's really helpful for just kind of calming down that stress and anxiety.
Okay, great. And then I wanted to also ask you that is it true that over 90% of people are deficient in magnesium?
Yes. Isn't that crazy? That's why I'm like, get supplementing. It's a super common deficiency. And the reason being kind of like what I mentioned, very hard to get through food. Like the only foods that are really rich in magnesium are avocados, dark chocolate, pumpkin seeds, but you'd have to be eating a ton of these. And, most people aren't eating 4 avocados every single day. So it's really difficult to get through food. And then your body uses it up like crazy during the day. So it's actually used for over 300 functions in the body. So your body is constantly pulling at your magnesium to fuel everyday activities. And so if we're not properly getting those levels in, that's when we'll start to experience symptoms like constipation, anxiety, poor sleep, hormonal imbalances. We can even start to see things with our metabolic health, like our blood sugars can start to increase, our cholesterol levels can start to become imbalanced because magnesium is really important for insulin sensitivity and other metabolic functions. So the benefits of supplementing with magnesium are really, really important. Just make sure you're taking the right kind, like the miracle worker.
Wow, I had no idea.
The good one.
Yeah. Okay. So then let's talk about food. Dark chocolate, pumpkin seeds. When I hear those foods and that's good, whole food sources for magnesium, but then I'm also thinking of gut health. I know that that could be irritating to some people to their gut and
Right.
especially seeds. And then I think of nuts as well. So how would you approach that if someone, if it irritates their gut? So then you would say to just supplement instead anyway.
For sure. And I mean, either way, I would say supplement because in
Mhm.
order to get enough magnesium, so kind of like a standard dose that I like to recommend to clients is around like 250 to 300 milligrams a day. That's kind of like good, just basic. I'll go higher if somebody's struggling with more symptoms. But in order to get that much magnesium from like chocolate or pumpkin seeds, you'd have to eat a ton of them, which most people just aren't doing. And you also don't want to be, down in a bunch of chocolate every single day just to try to hit your magnesium goals. And so, yeah, I recommend, supplementing anyway, because you would never get enough magnesium from those foods if you were only relying on pumpkin seeds, chocolate, and avocados every day to meet your magnesium needs.
Mm. Okay. And then are there other foods that you recommend avoiding if someone is experiencing gut issues?
The list is long. Yeah. Yeah, there absolutely is. And whenever I'm working with clients, I do try to take the approach of what can we add in versus what can we take out? Because that just feels so much better. And that's how you build these sustainable habits that actually stick. I do not believe in restrictive diets. I work with a lot of clients who come to me and they're like, I worked with another practitioner and they put me on a restrictive diet. They put me on an elimination diet. They told me I couldn't eat all my favorite foods. And like, I couldn't stick with that. And it's like, well, of course you couldn't because you're human and that's not sustainable to be on these very restrictive diets. And at the end of the day, if you're struggling with gut issues, it's not because of the food that you're eating, usually, it's because of the environment that the food's going into. Now, if you have a really poor diet, you're eating the standard American diet, you're eating fast food all the time and sugars and alcohol and caffeine every single day in very high amounts, like, yeah, that might be why you have some gut issues going on. But if you live a relatively healthy lifestyle and you do pay attention to trying to fuel your body with good whole food sources, yet you're still struggling with gut issues, it's not usually those foods that are causing your symptoms. It's the environment that the food is going into, which is your gut. So if you have a lot of imbalances going on the inside of the gut, that's why you're having symptoms, but it's not the food's fault. So I actually do a lot of testing with my clients. I do literal stool testing to see what's going on in the microbiome because I want to make sure you have good healthy good bacteria, not too much bad bacteria, you're digesting your foods well, so we can really heal that root cause, heal the imbalances of why you're not digesting well. So I definitely do take the approach of don't put the blame on the food. Of course, we want to be living a healthy lifestyle and eating a healthy diet. And when it comes to gut health, particularly, really focusing on those whole food sources, trying to limit overly processed foods as much as possible. So I always tell my clients, try to limit the foods that are coming in a box bag or a package. Try to lean more into those foods that are coming from the ground. So lots of produce, fruit, vegetables, herbs, spices, tubers, leaning into a lot of whole grains like quinoa and rice, leaning into a lot of, high quality animal sourced meats as well. I do think that meat can be very, very healthy for a lot of people. So I do eat meat myself. A lot of my clients do as well. So, good grass fed beef, pasteurized chicken, and eggs. So I think leaning more into those whole foods, that's going to be your best bet when it comes to healing your gut. If you're still struggling with gut issues, that's when it needs to, take that next step of looking at what's going on the inside causing those symptoms.
I'd like to take a moment to tell you about my brand new community. If you have acne or eczema and you're ready to start healing your skin naturally and want a little extra guidance along the way, I would love to invite you to join the Clear Skin Collective. It's my private community for women who are on their skin healing journey, where we focus on real, lasting results through food, mindset, and daily support. You can learn more and join us at evolvingwithjessica.com or by clicking the link in the show notes. I'd be so happy to welcome you in. Back to the episode. Do you ever find it beneficial to eliminate whole food groups for people, like, say, dairy or foods that are high in oxalates or high in histamines or any categories like that?
Depends on the person. So rarely, I would say. I would say maybe, I don't know, 20% of the clients will have to start going into that territory if they're very, very sensitive. I will say the test that I run on all my clients, it does test for gluten. So that would be the one, just because that's the most commonly inflammatory food for most people because of how we process it here in the States. So it's nice to be able to test and say, like, okay, yeah, your body's really reacting to this one. But even then, once we heal the gut, calm down the immune system, many times we can add these foods back in and not have any issues. It's more of like a short-term thing. So sometimes gluten, sometimes dairy. So if I'm working with a client and all of their symptoms are really pointing towards a dairy sensitivity, I might say, hey, let's do a 2-week trial pulling out the dairy. Let's see how you feel. If they feel better, we heal up the gut and then we'll add it back in. Same thing with the histamines. At the root cause of it, you shouldn't be reacting to these sort of foods, right? And if you are, that means that there's imbalances going on in the gut and that your immune system is overreactive. So if we can calm down the fire, so to speak, inside of the gut, then we can add those foods back in and not have any issues.
Okay, yes. Gluten was the first thing to go for me, and I had never had issues with it before, but then I found out I was sensitive and removed it. And I haven't had it in, I don't know, 6 years, but I have
Yeah.
several people that I know who have a gluten sensitivity, yet they'll still, occasionally want to have that pizza or bagel or whatever it may
Yeah.
be. And they have gut issues after they have the gluten, and they know it's the gluten, but is it the gluten or is it the gut? I mean, what do you look at there? Because if your gut is responding negatively to these certain foods, you don't want to just keep eliminating them. And I know gluten, like you said, it's the way it's processed.
Yeah.
It's the processing part of it, not the actual bread or wheat. But yeah, when you look at that, do you look at the gut or is it just remove the food?
No, it's look at the gut. Because yeah, to your point, gluten, it can be one of those foods that one, it could be the food because it can just be very inflammatory. It's hard on the immune system for everybody. And then if you layer on top of already having gut issues and like immune system dysfunction, which 70% of our immune system lives in the gut. So that's why your gut is so important when you have sensitivities to foods, because that's your immune system reacting to those foods. So that's a gut issue. And so gluten can be one of those foods that, just causes problems for people. But when I have clients who come to me and they're like, I can't eat broccoli or cauliflower or Brussels sprouts or kale, it makes me so uncomfortable. The fix is not pull those foods out. Those are really healthy foods that we actually want to be intaking. They're really important for our microbiome, our liver health, our detoxification. So we don't want to pull those foods out. We just want to fix the gut so that you don't have issues digesting those. So the approach is always start at the gut, not just start pulling out a bunch of foods, because then pretty soon you're going to get down to a point where you're like, I can only eat 10 foods. Like, how do I live off this? How do I travel? How do I go out to eat? Causes a lot of stress and anxiety, which just, feeds more into those gut issues. So my whole approach is it's not the food. The food's not the problem here. It's your gut. So if we go in and heal that up, then the foods become a non-issue, which is just such a better way to live.
Oh, I can relate with that so much. That was me.
Yeah, me too.
So, okay, maybe, I mean, I learned the hard way. I went through the long path, but now if someone is narrowed it down, they're only eating 5, 6, 10 foods,
Yeah.
where do they go from there? I mean, I know you have a supplement, which I just started taking, we were talking about before we
Yeah.
started, which is fantastic. Maybe that's a good place to start, or maybe it is by, I don't know. What would you do now, knowing what you know?
Yeah. Get support is what I would say. And I get working with a practitioner can be expensive. I get not everybody wants to do that. So there are other options, which we'll talk about. But if you're to the point where you've struggled for a really long time and you're now only safely able to eat a handful of foods, working with a gut health practitioner who can go in and heal the gut so that that's no longer an issue for you, really, really important. Doing gut testing so you can see why you're not digesting those foods well, really important. So ideally, I would say go there because that's what's going to get you better the fastest. However, if you're not in a place to work with somebody, then like I said, going onto our website, we have that free quiz, and that will tell you exactly what you need to begin healing the inside. So, yes, we have a product that is really good for food sensitivities that we were just talking about called the Healer. The name literally comes because it heals up the gut lining. So, the reason why food sensitivities happen is because our gut lining gets inflamed, kind of starts to get broken down, and that allows our immune system to be more reactive to the foods that we eat. So, we want to first and foremost heal up that gut lining, which is what the Healer does. That's a great product. Getting on the right probiotic, kind of like magnesium, a lot of different probiotics out there, not all are created equal. So making sure you're taking the right probiotic for you, which again, the quiz on our website tells you what kinds you need depending on your symptoms and your just health history there. And so I would say, go to the quiz, see exactly what you need to heal up your unique root causes. Or if you're like, tell me what to do, I really want to get to the root cause and heal this the fastest, look into some gut testing. And yeah, we do that, virtually with women all over the world. And it really is life changing.
Let's talk about parasites. I have a friend who had a whole bunch of gut health testing done, and she found out parasites was one of the things that she had. And no one would ever know it. I mean, she looks so incredibly healthy, one of the healthiest people I know.
Yeah.
And she was surprised, but I mean, she is traveling around the world, which that can
Mhm.
happen with foods. But after learning about her experience, I thought, oh no, like she's very healthy. I feel like I'm healthy, but so then maybe I have them if she does. And I guess they're very common. A lot of people have them. So I paused on taking the healer, on taking that supplement, because I thought, well, let me do a parasite cleanse first and then heal it up because you don't want to heal it up when the parasites are there. But I didn't even do a parasite test to see
Yeah.
if I had them. So I got these capsules from the internet and I started taking them. And then one day I forgot. And then I had this feeling maybe I forgot for a reason. Let me
Mm,
not continue taking these, not knowing if I even have this. And because apparently they're very strong, people will have these different side effects. So I just went straight into the healer and started taking those instead. So all of this to say, what has your experience been with parasites, parasite cleanses? What are your thoughts?
the parasite cleanses will be the bane of my existence. They're so popular because they're all over Instagram and all over TikTok, and people are like, "Yeah, parasite cleanse. Everyone has parasites." And as a gut health dietitian, I'm just like, "Please don't do this." So my take on them, do not do a parasite cleanse unless you know for a fact and you've done testing that you have a parasite and you're working with a practitioner to guide you through the process of clearing them because it's very intense, it's very gnarly. And our gut microbiome, it's super delicate. It's a very delicate ecosystem. And when we start adding in these really harsh supplements and herbs and botanicals that are really, really harsh on it, we'll start to deplete our microbiome, our good bacteria. It's going to start throwing off the immune system. So I have a lot of clients who come to me and they're like, I was feeling, kind of okay. Like maybe I had some symptoms here and there. Like maybe I was getting some breakouts or I was having some brain fog. So they're like, I'm going to do a parasite cleanse. And it completely wrecked their gut. And now they're struggling with severe IBS, immune system dysfunction. And they're just like, why did I do that? And so I do test like that same gut test I've been talking about. I do test for parasites. And when we see them, we'll treat them, but they're way less common than people think. And I should say the pathogenic, like problematic parasites, because truth of the matter is we all have parasites living in us. We have over 100 trillion microbes that are inside of our gut, which is like an unfathomable number. So of course we have some parasites and other, microbes that are hanging out in there. And most of them live very symbiotic with us, they're chilling in there, they're helping us, we're helping them. No harm done. Of course, there are like the bad parasites, you can say, that will, cause some issues and symptoms. And when those show up on a test, like, of course, we want to treat them. Of course, we want to get rid of them. But they're less common than people would think. I would say in comparison to how many people are doing these parasite cleanses. And a lot of gut issues, they can mimic different root causes. So if you're bloated, if you're having diarrhea, if you're constipated, if you're having stomach aches, could that be from a parasite? It could, but could it also be from a bacteria overgrowth, a candida overgrowth, a hidden pathogen? Absolutely. And those things need to be treated very differently than you would treat a parasite. So that's kind of my take on the parasites is I would not recommend a cleanse unless you're working with somebody and you do testing to confirm that there are some of those bad guys hanging out in there.
Wow. Okay. I'm glad I listened to my gut.
Yes, your gut knew.
Yeah. Something else I did want to find out your take on is powders. So things like protein powder, collagen powder, some of those can be irritating to the gut. What is your advice there?
Yeah, so I do utilize protein powders when needed, and I take them myself. But quality and the ingredients really matter because absolutely there are a lot of crappy protein powders out there. A lot of them have things like artificial sweeteners and sugar alcohols in them, which wreak havoc on the gut. And so whenever I'm working with a client and I'm doing kind of a diet recall, and if they ever say like, "Oh yeah, then I do my protein shake," I'm always digging into that. And I'm asking, what kind of protein powder are you using? What is the brand? And I'm looking up to make sure that there's none of those gut irritating ingredients. So as long as you're keeping to a very simple, clean, high quality protein powder, I'm okay using them. I wouldn't, say do it multiple times a day, but once a day to get closer to your protein goals, I think is totally reasonable. There are certain brands that I really like. I use a lot of Be Well by Kelly, which is Kelly Levine's company. I don't know if you've heard of her, but she's great. She has a really great protein powder, so I'll utilize hers a lot. Equip is another really good one. So as long as you're doing like a good, clean brand, I'm okay with it. But definitely pay attention to the ingredients and make sure that there's no sugar alcohols or artificial sweeteners because those are really, really common and they're commonly snuck into the ingredients.
Okay, great. Yeah, I've tried out Truvani.
Yeah, I like Truvani too.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a couple of questions from my community revolved around gut health, and they're very simple. So I'm just going to read them how they are, and then we can interpret them however
Okay.
we see fit. But the first one is, what's a good way to reset it?
To reset gut health, I would imagine is what they're asking.
Yeah, to reset
Interpret
the
it that
gut.
way.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what I would say when it comes to resetting gut health, number one, dialing in your nutrition. So, let's say you just like went on a vacation, you come home and you're like, oh my goodness, my gut hates me. Like, I feel terrible. I need a little reset. Do not go and do like a juice cleanse or a detox. Please do not reach for those because that's just going to put you in a worse place. Instead, I would really pay attention to the foods that you're eating. Really lean into your whole foods at this time. I would say do like an entire 2 weeks of really just doing whole foods. Cut out those processed foods. Cook a lot at home because going out to restaurants, they're using, a lot of cooking oils that could be more irritating to the gut. So cook at home, do a lot of whole foods, focus on your hydration, your sleep, and your stress, and get in some gentle movement. I wouldn't go like hitting it hard in the gym right off the bat because again, that's a stress on the body, it's a stress on the gut. So taking it easy. Those are kind of like the foundationals, which I would say like make sure you're doing all that. But then I would add in, we actually have, it's literally called the Gut Reset. It's on our website and it's 4 different supplements. I tell my clients, do this for a month. It will completely kind of give your gut that little reset that you're looking for. And it has the healer that we talked about to heal up that inflammation, has the magnesium to help with detox, kind of clearing out the stuff that you need to get out of your body. It also has a really great probiotic and then something called the Gut Soother, which soothes up the gut lining. So I would also say do a month of the gut fix reset, and that will kind of help give your body that bump it needs to just restore digestion and get you feeling better.
Oh, great. Didn't even see that. Okay. And then
Good.
you said don't do a juice cleanse. How do you feel about water fasts?
I would say this for women specifically, especially cycling women, I'm not usually a fan of any kind of fastings. A water fast, do you mean is that just like kind of drinking water for an entire day? Is it 24 hours?
24, 72, anywhere in between
Yeah.
there.
Okay. Yeah, for cycling women, I'm typically a no-go on that. Everybody's different. I also am very realistic where I'm like, hey girl, if you feel great, if you do a 72-hour water fast and you're like, I feel like on top of the world and your hormones are in a really great place, your gut health is in a really great place, you're sleeping well at night, your stress is regulated, then I say, go for it. You do you. However, for most women, in my experiences, any kind of fasting, so that includes like a water fast, a juice cleanse, because you're not really getting real calories with that. Even intermittent fasting, I'm usually out on because it's really hard on our hormones. Women especially, our hormones are very, very sensitive to stress. And so your body perceives fasting as a stressor. It starts to perceive it as like, oh, there's a lack of food, there's a lack of calories. I need to start conserving onto everything. So it's going to start shutting down your hormone production. That's what's going to start to kind of snowball into other symptoms. So I'm personally usually out on any sort of fasting when it comes to cycling women, just because of that hormonal component. And it can kind of throw things off there.
Oh man. I was debating on doing one with the holidays coming up, and I'll have a little bit of time to, and I thought
Yeah.
this would be a good time to do that, but maybe it'd be better to try out the gut reset.
I would do the gut reset for sure. And I would almost like do a fasting of just like really healthy whole foods, like really going all in on like no processed foods, no eating out. Like if you want to do like a fast, you want to do like a I don't want to say intense, but like kind of intense reset. If you're like, I'm going to hit this hard for 3 days, hit it hard with the nutrition. Cause most people, we're not eating in a way that is like 100% dialed in, you know? So like maybe really focus on, I'm going to get in 3 cups of cooked vegetables every single day. I'm going to, get in 100 grams of really high quality protein every day. I'm not going to do any sort of inflammatory oils. And so I would almost approach it with that perspective. It's going to be way more beneficial for your health.
Okay. And I did want to ask this before when we talked about the foods to avoid. What foods would you recommend as far as that are more healing for the gut? I know I always recommend to people papaya and banana,
Yeah.
but what would you say?
Yeah, I'm a massive fan of bone broth when it comes to gut health. Bone broth, it's really high in an ingredient called L-glutamine, which really healing for the gut. It's actually the nutrition for the cells in our gut lining. So bone broth is amazing for gut health for that reason, but it's also really rich in minerals. Minerals are really important for our thyroid health and so many other functions in the body, and it's high in protein. So protein is really important for our immune system, for our gut health as well, many other things. So I'm a big, big fan of bone broth. I utilize that a lot. One of my new recent finds that I've been really leaning into is Zen basil seeds. Have you ever heard of those before?
No.
They're so good. I actually was just sipping on a cup of them. They look like little chia seeds. They're called Zen basil seeds. Look like a chia seed, but they're way higher in fiber. There's like 15 grams of fiber in just 2 tablespoons, which is really significant amount of fiber. So I always say start low and slow with them, but I just add it into a glass of water and they kind of like congeal like a chia seed would. It kind of like gelatinizes, but I think it's like kind of nice to sip on. So I'll add a scoop into my electrolyte water every day, and it's a really great fiber boost. So that's been kind of like my newest little gut health food that I've been loving. And I recommend it a lot to clients, especially those who have really depleted beneficial bacteria. It's just a good way to quickly get those guys back up.
Zen basil seeds. Where do you find those?
I get it off Amazon. Yeah, you can get
Okay.
them off of Amazon. I haven't even looked to see if like Whole Foods carries them. I'm sure they do. Whole Foods, Sprouts. I haven't looked yet. I just order mine online.
Okay, neat. I'll have to check it out. And then
Yeah.
the other question from the community, H. pylori. So
Mhm.
just what do you, that's it, H. pylori.
Oh, yeah, that guy's a little bugger. I do test for that one. Very, very common. So 2/3 of the population actually have this bacteria. So what H. pylori is it's a bacteria that lives up in the stomach. Like I said, very common. 2/3 of the population have this bacteria hanging out in their stomach. Most people are asymptomatic, so they don't even know if they have it. However, everyone who comes to me are not asymptomatic because they're struggling with gut issues. And H. pylori, because it's in the stomach, really disrupts digestion all downstream. So it's a massive root cause to things like bloating, heartburn, gas, especially like belching, burping a lot. Those are some really big root causes for or symptoms of this H. pylori. So what it does actually is it reduces stomach acid. Once that stomach acid goes down, of course, you're not going to be digesting your foods as well. You also can't absorb nutrients, particularly things like magnesium and other minerals like zinc, iron, and also vitamin B12. So I can also see a lot of those deficiencies in people who have this H. pylori infection. So I do test for it. I absolutely treat it when I see it, especially when there's a lot of those symptoms accompanying it. And people feel so much better once it's treated. Conventional treatment for H. pylori is a really intense round of antibiotics. I do not use any antibiotics in my practice. I'm using all natural herbs and botanicals. So there's certain herbs that you can use to go in and kill off that H. pylori really successfully, and it works great.
That's great to hear. So which herbs would you recommend first, or which ones do you have at top of mind?
Yeah, so the most effective treatment for that is going to be, it's called mastic gum. Mastic gum's really good. I use a lot of bismuth too. So bismuth is a nutrient that kind of helps pull the H. pylori from the stomach lining. So what H. pylori does is it kind of burrows into your stomach lining, which makes it difficult to treat. So the bismuth kind of pulls it out. The mastic gum treats it. I also always add in some zinc carnosine to heal up the inflammation that it causes. But again, it's just like we were talking with the parasites, make sure you're testing for it before you just start taking supplements because it absolutely can make things worse when you don't even know if you have it.
You read my mind. I
Yeah.
was going because you said so many people have it, like 2/3 of people. And if someone's
Right.
listening to this and it sounds, oh, let me make sure, I can get that out of me if I have it. But So
Yeah.
it's too harsh. The herbs are too
Yes.
harsh. Okay.
Yep, I definitely would not do it unless you're working with a practitioner, and you're getting testing done for it. Something that you can do, and this would be safe for everybody without any testing, is that gut soother supplement that I was talking about. Because that gut soother, it has some zinc in it, also has the L-glutamine to heal up the irritation in the stomach that H. pylori causes. That's a supplement I recommend a lot for people who have like heartburn, reflux. I describe it as like a natural Tums because it heals up all that irritation, and that could be from the H. pylori. So that's a totally safe supplement that you can add in without doing testing first, and you can feel a lot better from it.
Okay, great. Gut soother.
That
I have two closing questions for you, but before I ask them, Jillian, is there anything that we didn't discuss yet that you feel is important to share?
I always love to wrap things up with empowering people that you deserve to feel so good in your body. And, I work with a lot of women who are just like, and men too. I do work with men as well, but they come to me and they're just like, I just like don't feel well. And I haven't felt well for 10, 15, 20 years. And I want to empower people of like, you deserve to feel good. And you have the power to feel really good. And these little symptoms that have just been kind of playing in the background, like maybe you're just feeling tired all the time. Maybe you're crashing by 3 p.m. Maybe you're having confusing weight gain that you cannot get rid of. Maybe you're going through perimenopause and things are just feeling so different. Maybe you're not sleeping well at night. All of these are signals from your body that, hey, something's going on in here. And all of those things can be addressed. You just have to take the action to seek out that support to start healing these imbalances. So I always like to say that because I struggled with my own gut issues for so many years. I wish I addressed them sooner because once you get to the other side and you're no longer struggling with health concerns, it's the best gift that you can give to yourself. So I always like to empower. You do not need to feel like crap. You deserve to feel good, and there's support out there for you.
Yes, love that message. My first closing question for you is what is your number one health tip? So, whether that is mindset, diet and nutrition, emotional, spiritual, physical, the one piece of advice you would like everyone to know.
So since I'm a dietitian, mine's going to be nutrition related, and I would say make sure you're fueling your body properly. Don't be skipping meals. Don't be intermittent fasting. Don't be thinking that you need to starve yourself in order to make yourself smaller because we really need to be nourishing our bodies. Something I work with my clients a lot on is first thing when you wake up in the morning within an hour, make sure you're having a protein forward breakfast, an hour upon waking, and then every 3.5 to 4 hours after that focusing on those balanced meals, getting in some protein, some carbohydrates, some healthy fats with each of those, spacing those out so that you're not getting bloated. But I really believe that's one of the most foundational things that we can do for our body because your body cannot heal if it's in an under-fueled state. We need to make sure we're fueling ourselves. We need to make sure that we're nourishing ourselves. And that's what's really going to set the stage for true healing.
Great. And then the last question is going to be a more personal question. You get to choose the number 1 through 100, and that will tell us which question.
Let's go 19.
19. How do you create boundaries in relationships while maintaining closeness?
Ooh, how do I maintain boundaries while maintaining closeness? Is that the question?
Create boundaries.
How
Yeah.
do I create boundaries while maintaining closeness? I am a big boundaries girl. I didn't used to be. I used to be Mrs. Yes girl, saying yes to everything, and it burnt me out. I really think that saying no to things is very difficult, but once you start doing it, you realize it's not so difficult and it really feeds into your soul. So, something that someone told me once that I've really held close to me is you saying yes to something is you saying no to something else. And so you have to kind of prioritize. If I say yes to this, but no to something else, is that worth it for me? So I would say the practice that I use anytime I'm making a decision, if I'm making a commitment to, go to an event, to go traveling, to go out to dinner with girlfriends, I'm saying no to something else. And is it worth it for me? Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. So I think that that can be a really helpful practice for people to, maintain their personal peace and, setting boundaries when needed.
So well said. So well said. You're so good at articulating.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you
this
so
has
much.
been really great, Jillian. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing all this valuable information and everything you've learned. I'm sure we didn't even get to dive into your story, but I'm sure that there's a backstory here of why you're so passionate about it. And I'm just grateful that you've come on to share it with everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. I love talking about gut health and women's health and men's health as well. So thank you for having me. This was great.